Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a pocket commentary book on the Rome I regulation. It's been written and edited by Franco Ferrari, and it's come to us from a publication company called Sellier European Law Publishers, SELP. And it's also from the New York University Centre for Transnational Litigation, Arbitration and Commercial Law. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I had a look at this excellent little book, and we've come up with a review title for our review of A Useful First Reference to the Rome I Regulation on Contractual Obligations by an expert team of contributors, and that's what it is. Now the title, the book, you can see the book is very small actually. There's the front, that's the side. You see who it's made up of, Sellier and the university there. There's the spine, and then there at the back, it's very little. It's a light paperback. It runs to 500 odd pages. There's a very detailed index which you can see at the back. And then at the front, if we go to it, there is the actual front page there. And then you've got that front page itself. Then you've got a very useful preface from Franco, which is extremely helpful, setting out what he's intending to do. And he's also written various publications on other articles as well. So this is one of a series of books. We've not seen these books before. These are the list of the people involved. Very, very high level of content throughout. Then the contents, you see there are 4 main chapters there, which is setting out, and then you go into the regulations themselves. The book runs through, you see there's a lot of footnoting, you can see throughout. You do have slightly different type of numbering. You've just got the numbers at the side there, so it's not quite the same as perhaps the law books or law reports you're used to. You've also got subheadings throughout. And then, of course, you've got the various articles covered all the way through. And then right at the end, as I say, you then go to the index itself. And it runs to 500, just over 500 pages. But it's a very interesting book. And let me just explain now what we mean by the Rome I regulation. Because one of the problems with this is that you probably will need to have some knowledge about what we're talking about here before you actually open this book up, because it's not something that will be immediately familiar to some people. So this is what we say. It's for students, primarily graduates and undergraduates in our view, and for practitioners professionally involved in European Union matters, European Union law matters in general, and in the area of conflict of laws in particular. And it's a handy pocket-sized commentary which is both comprehensive and detailed as a text, and I think quite a find, frankly, because it's something we do need. A lot of stuff we have within EU law, and I go back 25 or so, 30 years now with seeing the changes that have taken place within the old common market, and then the different changes of title up to what we now have as the European Union. Been an awful lot of change, and it's something that's really actually quickened its pace over the years. So for older law graduates like myself, this is quite a useful statement of where we are at the moment with the articles. As I've said, it's a second volume in an increasingly well-known SELP series of pocket commentaries which have come to us from Sellier, based in Germany. And bearing in mind the more than occasional abstruseness of European Union regulations, and I'm sure the authors would agree with me on that, this is an excellent publishing initiative, we think, which is very handy for practitioners, especially international lawyers, to know of its existence and what it's offering you if in your particular area we're asked to advise. And the particular volume offers concise yet detailed and instructive commentary specifically on the Rome I regulation. And there are 12 learned contributors who've come into this book itself, including the editor Franco Ferrari, and they're either expert practitioners with well-known international firms such as people from Baker Mackenzie, for instance, or distinguish academics from leading universities. And Franco is, for instance, the Professor of Law and Director of the Centre for Transnational Litigation, Arbitration and Commercial Law at the New York University School of Law. And he's also served as a legal officer at the UN Office of Legal Affairs, the International Trade Law Branch. An important area to many people that probably thinks, well, it's not that glamorous and not particularly interesting. But it is. It's an important area because this is where the growth, the wealth of a state can quite often be tied up. And it's all about our relationships with our colleagues internationally. So it's an important area of law and one that attracts a lot of interest from practicing lawyers, both in the United Kingdom and of course overseas. Similar to other books in this series then, the commentary is meant to provide a first reference to a particular instrument, and in this case it's the Rome 1 instrument. And just being technical for a moment, Rome 1 is the regulation, that's the European Community number 593/2008, you see how old it is, of the European Parliament and of the Council, dated the 17th of June 2008, on the law applicable to contractual obligations. So it's the law of contract in international trade, in simplest terms. So I hope that assists those who perhaps not quite so familiar because of the actual title, which is not in fact the easiest way of following what it's about, but I hope that clears up that point. Rome 1, therefore, in other words, is about contracts, aiming at achieving a desirable level of predictability and legal certainty for the parties to any given transactions. It sets forth, as the editor explains, quote, a set of uniform private international law rules for most of the member states of the European Union, and that's the objective. One can see the overall objective here quite clearly then from what Franco has put forward. The regulation is part of a general movement toward the harmonisation of law across Europe. That's been the aim all the way through. There are obviously people who don't like it, but you can see that the objective, I would suggest, is a very noble one. And it's particularly applicable to transactions which are linked not just to one country, but to two or more within the European Union. And that's the basic purpose of what the old common market was about. Forget about all the other stuff. This gets to the very heart. Rome 1, after all, gets to the very heart of where we started off at the beginning. So, having got that off my chest, let me conclude by saying for those engaged in the study or application of European Union law, or European law, whatever you want to call it today, this book, with its thorough and extensive footnoting and containing a mine of references, is a useful acquisition. It does presuppose, in our view, some familiarity, in fact considerable knowledge, of this particular aspect of European Union law on the part of the reader, and is therefore perfect for researchers or practitioners seeking an enriched, in-depth and certainly authoritative examination of the Rome 1 regulation. Thank you anyway to Franco and his team for what they've done. And the publication date is cited at 2015. Just to show you again, it's a very small book, nice paper as well. It's not, it's very well done. Just opening it in the middle, it's Article 4. There we go, have a look at it there. Again, you've got a lot of footnoting. You do have that. There is a lot of it. Some books have more than others, as you know, but there's a lot here. But one of the reasons is justifying and identifying some of the points and some of the activities and some of the implications of the rules and where we've actually got to. The applicable law, for instance, is set out there in Article 17. And just to remind you at the back, you've got a very detailed index, which is very helpful. Then at the front, you've got the 4 chapters: scope, uniform rules, other provisions and final provisions. So they're listed there and clearly set out. And as I say, you've got a lot of people, I can't mention them all by name, the authors there, and on the following page you see very highly qualified people, and this is an extremely important document. It starts with Article 1 there. So there we go. Franco, thank you very much indeed for producing what is a first-class book. I think it's of great help both to the academic and the practitioner communities, and it's the way forward. I've always found the European Union, the European Parliament, extremely complex, difficult with all the language issues and all the other problems. But I think this tries to push things to one side and give you the very basis of where we are with the Rome 1 regulation. And I think the pocket commentaries themselves are nice and concise, and they actually assist us with what our task is. So thank you very much indeed. It's very useful to have this publication. Do have a look at our reviews, which are on the web and in the journals. Thank you very much anyway. Bye bye.